I have exited Discovery. I'm a free agent. What?
Hello? I'm trying to reach Dennis, please.
Yes.
My name is Richard Rawlings. I'm with Gas Monkey Garage.
Oh.
That is great. My name's Richard Rawlings. I own Gas Monkey Garage down in Dallas, Texas. Seems as though a Dennis filled out an application, or Dennis filled out an entry for Bad to the Chrome sweepstakes with Haviland Motor Oil.
After years of silence, Richard Rawlings is finally breaking his silence and revealing the shocking truth. The Fast and Loud star is about to open up about the real reasons behind the end of his marriages, the untold story of why he sold off his iconic car collection, and, perhaps most jaw-droppingly, the secret behind why Discovery pulled the plug on his hit show. At 55, Richard is diving headfirst into the jaw-dropping details of his $6 million legal battle, and trust us, what he's about to share will leave you speechless. Richard Rawlings' journey began in Fort Worth, Texas, on March 30, 1969. But before he was ever a household name, his world revolved around something much more powerful: cars. In one childhood photo, Richard is seen behind the wheel of a pedal-powered Volkswagen Beetle, his first taste of what would soon become a lifelong obsession. While most kids were glued to cartoons, Richard was up at 3 a.m. delivering newspapers with his dad. This wasn't just about pocket change, it was about cars. By the age of 10, Richard could spot the make, model, and year of every car in his neighborhood. His passion was already starting to fuel his future. Richard's work ethic was instilled early on. His father, a hard-working man who held multiple jobs, made sure Richard earned something meaningful, whether it was a car or a motorcycle. By age 14, Richard had saved up enough money to buy his very first car, a 1974 Green Mercury Comet. Though he was still too young to drive, nothing could stop him. That Comet wasn't just a car, it was his ticket to independence. But Richard wasn't the type to let his cars gather dust in a garage. Instead, he took them for a spin, cruising around the school parking lot, burning rubber and showing off his prized possessions. Sure, the color may not have been the flashiest, but to Richard, it was the coolest car on the planet. By his senior year in 1987, Richard had stepped up his game, driving a sleek black 1977 Bandit Trans Am, straight out of Smokey and the Bandit. He had become the go-to car guy at Eastern Hills High School. But it wasn't just about flaunting his ride. Richard was already flipping cars, buying, fixing, and selling them. By the time he graduated, he'd flipped over 20 cars and was earning more money than most of his peers with part-time jobs. It was clear, Richard was onto something big. But nothing could prepare Richard for what came next. In the early 90s, at just 22, he was cruising through a rough neighborhood in Fort Worth, behind the wheel of his prized 1965 Ford Mustang Fastback. What should have been a routine drive nearly turned deadly. Carjackers ambushed him, attempting to drag him out of the car. Amid the chaos, a bullet tore through his shoulder and arm. But Richard wasn't about to let them take him down. He fought back, and survived. That brush with death only fueled his determination to succeed. Between 1988 and 1990, Richard juggled 3 completely different jobs: police officer, firefighter, and paramedic, all before he turned 21. His father's advice to get a good job with benefits stuck with him, but little did he know, life had a very different plan for him. In 1988, a chance encounter at a bar led Richard to the North Texas Police Academy. Just 17 days later, he was enrolled. From there, he worked as both a cop and a firefighter, roles that would teach him the invaluable art of staying calm in the face of chaos. These lessons would become crucial in his future. By age 25, Richard was ready for a change. He sold everything, bought a Jeep, and headed to California to reinvent himself. Back then, he was clean-cut with no tattoos or piercings. 6 months later, he returned to Texas, broke, tattooed, pierced, and with no Jeep. It had been repossessed. He was crashing on his sister's couch, but instead of letting this rock-bottom moment defeat him, it sparked something deep within. Richard realized it was time to stop dreaming and start building something of his own. That's when Lincoln Press came to life in 1999. With no background in printing, Richard had something even more valuable: an uncanny instinct for branding. He took out a $100,000 loan and launched the company with nothing but ambition and a bold vision. Within 5 years, Lincoln Press was thriving. But Richard wasn't the type to rest on his laurels. In 2004, he made a bold move that would change everything, offering a Lamborghini Gallardo to the first client who spent $1 million with him. The gamble paid off. The company exploded, and Richard eventually sold it, freeing himself to pursue what he truly loved, cars. When Richard opened Gas Monkey Garage in 2002, success didn't come overnight. The shop was small, lacked running water and air conditioning, but Richard had something that money couldn't buy: passion. He didn't have all the resources, but he and his team were fueled by a vision, a belief in what they were building. So, they hit the road, attending car shows, trade events, doing whatever it took to put Gas Monkey on the map. Then came May 2007. Richard and his friend Dennis Collins set their sights on the legendary Cannonball Run record. The original record, set in 1979, had stood for 28 years, 32 hours and 51 minutes to drive from New York to Los Angeles. Richard and Dennis weren't just aiming to break it, they were determined to smash it. On May 12, 2007, they left Manhattan in the dead of night, driving a modified Ferrari 550 Maranello with extra fuel tanks. Just 31 hours and 59 minutes later, they arrived in Redondo Beach, California, shattering the record and averaging a blistering 87.6 miles per hour over 2,811 miles. The route they took sparked controversy, but their achievement was undeniable. Bold, dangerous, and enough to earn a personal shout-out from none other than Jay Leno. For any car enthusiast, a personal nod from Jay Leno is more than just a compliment, it's a stamp of legitimacy. When Leno praised Richard Rawlings for breaking the Cannonball Run record, it wasn't just praise, it was validation from the biggest name in the business. And at that moment, Richard needed it. Between 2002 and 2012, Gas Monkey Garage wasn't the polished machine it is today. Richard poured every dollar into the business, working out of a cramped garage without air conditioning or running water, struggling to find good mechanics and quality parts. Every project felt like a high-stakes gamble, and every customer was hard-earned. During this time, Richard pitched an idea for a show, one that would bring car restoration to a wider audience, not just gearheads but families and kids as well. The networks didn't buy it. They thought it was too niche, too risky. But Richard didn't back down. He kept pushing, attending car shows, forging connections, and slowly building Gas Monkey's reputation. By 2012, when Discovery finally gave him the green light for Fast and Loud, Gas Monkey had already earned the respect of the car community. When the show premiered on June 6, 2012, no one could have predicted it would turn a small Dallas garage into a global sensation. Before the cameras rolled, Richard was just another guy running Gas Monkey. But after the show took off, he became a household name, known in over 200 countries. Fast and Loud wasn't just a hit in the US, it was dubbed in 13 languages, turning Richard into an international star. The formula behind Fast and Loud was simple: find neglected classic cars, restore them, and flip them for profit. But what set it apart from other car shows was the energy. Unlike the usual, mechanical-focused shows, Fast and Loud brought fast-paced, fun storytelling that anyone could enjoy. Kids, grandparents, and car lovers alike became hooked, not just on the cars but on the energy, the builds, and the personalities behind them. As the show's success skyrocketed, so did Richard's empire. He expanded into restaurants, clothing lines, energy drinks, tequila, vodka, and beyond. While the garage remained the heart of it all, it had become the foundation of something far larger. By 2020, Richard Rawlings had built an empire that went far beyond the Fast and Loud brand. Even though the show wrapped up in June 2020 after 16 successful seasons, the Gas Monkey name was stronger than ever. So, what was the secret to his success? Richard called it his cash money formula, a simple yet powerful strategy: buy smart, sell smarter. Richard traveled across the country, hunting down classic cars in rough shape, negotiating deals with cash in hand to close fast. His mantra: you can always buy a $10,000 car for $5,000, if you've got it in your pocket. One prime example of Richard's cash money formula: a Dodge Challenger. He bought it for $40,000, poured $77,000 into restoring it, and flipped it for a staggering $150,000, a jaw-dropping profit of $73,000. This wasn't luck. It was a combination of sharp instincts, smart spending, and an uncanny ability to know exactly what buyers were looking for. But it wasn't just the money that set Fast and Loud apart, it was Richard's fearless approach. He wasn't afraid to take risks, purchasing cars that others wouldn't touch, rust buckets, cars with frame damage, and machines long forgotten. One of his boldest moves: buying a supercar for $400,000 despite serious mechanical issues. After a complete rebuild, he sold it for a huge profit. While his career soared, Richard's personal life had its challenges. His first marriage ended in 1994, and his second, to Suzanne Marie Mergel, lasted until 2009, briefly rekindled in 2015 before ending again in 2019. That same year, he married Katerina Deason. In 2018, Richard faced a $6 million defamation lawsuit over claims of a toxic work environment at Gas Monkey Bar and Amp Grill. He countersued for $1 million in 2019, claiming copyright infringement. Amid this, he launched the Monkey Trap podcast to connect with fans. In 2023, Richard auctioned off nearly 30 cars from his collection, netting over $1 million. He then shifted his focus to high-end European models, including Ferraris and Lamborghinis. By early 2024, he had reinvested $1 million into this new direction, proving that even after years in the spotlight, Richard Rawlings knew how to stay relevant and stay on top.